Very, very much. We just want to wrap up this conversation we were having a couple of minutes ago, and it's talking to this year marking the 25th anniversary of the South African Constitution, and the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development yesterday said this gives the country an opportunity to reflect, but also for government to heighten awareness on the rights enshrined in this document. It's hailed as one of the most progressive constitutions in the world, and it'll be interesting to get the views of South Africans 25 years from the time it was signed in Sharpeville, Johannesburg, from 1996. So let's continue to have our conversation this morning and just sort of wrap and round everything up. Deputy Minister at the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development, John Jeffery, is with us, and human rights lawyer and researcher at the Legal Resource Centre, Edwin Makwati. Both of you, thank you very much for just staying on a little bit so we can wrap this up. So, Deputy Minister, I mean, I think the previous answer definitely needs a bit of a response from you, and it was all talking to what we've been seeing and hearing of late from leaders that we look up to. I mean, our former president, for one, who just almost talking to the Constitution and saying that, perhaps this is not necessarily what it should say, and almost disregarding it. How does that make you feel?
Look, I think those comments are unfortunate. They were from a leaked document, so if one is to assume that they are valid, they are unfortunate. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land. It needs to be followed, and particularly when the Constitutional Court makes a ruling, that ruling needs to be followed, whether you agree with it or disagree with it. We also, before 1994, apartheid South Africa was a constitutional state. It ruled according to a constitution, but it was Parliament that was supreme. And even though it wasn't exactly a democratic state, because the franchise was only for white people, it basically did rule according to the provisions of earlier constitutions. And Parliament was the supreme body. The whole reason for we decided before '94, with the negotiations leading up to democracy, that we would make the Constitution supreme. The whole issue of a Bill of Rights is also there specifically to protect the vulnerable, to protect the weak, to protect minorities. Mm-hmm. So you can have a situation where the majority of the people of the country feel one way, which is actually not right. And people need protection from that. I think it's important to debate these issues. I think this has been a good engagement. It's pity we didn't have more time. Yeah. But those are things I would quite strongly assert. Of the Constitution is supreme, and the court rules that whether the Constitution's been followed or not.
Well, I mean, it's something that I think we need to revisit, as Sakina and myself were saying, on a regular basis, because sometimes, we can take these things for granted, and then the minute you start taking them for granted, you just see, you start seeing the deterioration happening. I mean, I ask you again, and I think the answer would be very similar to what you've just said, but I'm bringing up another example. I mean, just recently, a very senior member of the ANC, the Secretary General, Ace Magashule, said the Constitution is not sacrosanct and it can be challenged. I mean, has the ANC government, which is the custodian of the Constitution, engaged him and sought to understand his viewpoint and what should happen when senior people say such? Because if senior politicians can say something like that, man on the street can do the same thing.
Yeah, look, I'm not on the National Executive Committee of the ANC, so I would hope that members of the NEC have engaged with the Secretary General. Those views are concerning to me.
Fair enough. Edwin, I mean, let's again get another view from you, because as we keep saying, the Constitution is a document that we're all told to abide by, to look up to, and something that protects us. And yet I'm wondering how much it does protect us. Let's talk to that, Edwin.
The protection afforded by the Constitution to the general population has not been realized. Look, I speak from experience of the things that I see every day, things that we deal with every day as the Legal Resources Center. You would see that indeed the Constitution has become something that has been, it's been relegated to the peripheries of the democratic discourse in this country, and many times the rights that are in there are seen as by the way. It's like a privilege. Yet we understand that the rights that are enshrined in the Constitution are fundamental. They are inalienable, and at the end of the day, you cannot just deal with them willy-nilly or how you wish. They can only be limited within the confines of Section 36 of the Constitution. But the reality of many, especially Black South Africans that I've seen in the townships or in those marginalized areas, is whereby the places they live in, the way the police deal with them when there is suspected law breaking, and the access to health, for example. Basically, we're talking of Section 26 and Section 27 rights. They are merely an ideal that has not become a reality, and that is concerning. And as much as that this day I think if we call this day a day of remembering and taking introspection, it's one thing that we must look at with a very concerned eye and make sure that every day, every single day that a typical ordinary South African wakes up, it's a Constitution Remembrance Day, it's a Constitution Celebration Day. These things should mean something to us. It should mean something to an ordinary South African. Every day when he talks about this Constitution, he must be proud. Yeah. That is not just a document spoken highly of, but it's actually practically realized.
Absolutely, and being implemented at the strongest possible level. And anybody that does not abide by this is held to task and is taken, steps are taken against them and examples are set. And I think that that's what many South Africans would like to see. I mean, it is definitely something that we need to cherish. We really, really do. Gentlemen, closing remarks on all of this. And like you said a bit earlier, Deputy Minister, we could talk about this for hours, but I think it's a great starting point that we have visited this. I mean, at times I sense, I've been watching your face, and I do sense a bit of disappointment sometimes. You are the Deputy Minister, and this is something that unfortunately does fall under your domain. And when you start seeing those closest to you and in the ruling party just disregard the Constitution, that is something that I think South Africans are very, very upset by. But let's get a closing remark from you, and then I'll do the same for you, Edwin.
I think I would agree with Edwin when he spoke about inequality being a prime problem in South Africa. I would also add, and I'm sure he wouldn't disagree, unemployment and poverty to those three problems. I think it's difficult in that context to ensure the rights of the Constitution are realized. When one comes to, for example, racism, we're not going to eradicate racism in South Africa until poverty does not have a black face. Whilst that happens, there will always be issues of racism will be a big issue. And poverty having a black face and privilege having a white face. But I think that as I'd said in the beginning, let's use the 25th anniversary to engage on the Constitution. If we need to redebate issues such as the importance of constitutional supremacy rather than parliamentary supremacy, let's use that opportunity to do that. And I look forward to many further engagements.
Indeed, Deputy Minister, thank you very much. Edwin, let's just get a closing remark from you as well.
I think one way of looking at this as well is the doctrine of separation of powers. I think if both in government and the executive respected the courts, would be going somewhere, because South African courts have given very progressive judgments. We have seen it with a lot of litigation that the LRC has done in the past few years and in the past many years, of course. When the judgments are given, it's about what is done. Those that are supposed to implement them, let's see them implementing them. And then gradually we're going to realize progression. towards the realization of the rights that are enshrined in the Constitution, the dignity of the human person. That is the cornerstone that we must not deviate from. And those that do so should be seen as enemies of the people and given and held to account as they should. Thank you very much, Ben.
Gentlemen, thank you. Thank you so much. And I must say that the response that we've been getting from South Africans has been exceptionally promising, that we are talking about this, we are addressing it, we're not ignoring it. And it is something that we need to constantly talk to. Deputy Minister at the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development, John Jeffery, charged with the drive to create heightened awareness on the rights enshrined in the Constitution as South Africa commemorates 25 years of the document's existence, as well as researcher at the Legal Resource Centre, Edwin Makwati. All right.